Hello, my name is Michele, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. Joining me on the podcast today is Maddie Poteat, founding partner and lead marketing strategist at MP Consulting, based in Nashville, Tennessee. Maddie and I are going to jump into the conversation about testimonials. We're going to talk a little bit about the difference between just asking for feedback from your client and then really having those social proof testimonials. We're going to look at how to do the ask, how to collect that information, where to put it online, why we need to do it. We're going to talk about the benefits, and then even what not to do, like what's not really the best way to go about that. Testimonial is a free way to have a large marketing impact, and so we don't want to overlook how to get and how to use and manage properly in our business. So I hope you'll walk away with a couple of ideas of maybe the testimonials you need to get, how to add that into your process, and where you want to show up with them. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Maddie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat about testimonials today.
I know. I'm excited to have you here. Maddie, before we start and jump into the testimonial conversation that we're going to have, share a little bit about your company and how you got started.
Sure. So my company is called MP Consulting, and we started about 2 years ago this summer. I kind of found myself working for small and local businesses after my husband and I moved from Omaha, Nebraska to Nashville, Tennessee, as a consultant, just doing some marketing work for them. And as I continued to build my clientele, I kind of realized that maybe I had a business opportunity here. And so we do digital marketing for small local businesses. And we really try and create a partnership with the people we're working with and kind of act as their internal marketing team, because a lot of these businesses can't afford or don't want to bring in their own marketing professional full time. So we kind of take and step into those shoes. And so we work in all different types of industries right now. And it's been fun just learning more about those industries and figuring out how to make each different business work and grow. But at the same time, business is business. And so we found that a lot of the stuff that works for one type of industry or one type of business is going to work for other ones. We've been growing the last 2 years and love to share our knowledge of things that we've learned throughout the process.
That's awesome. So I know you worked for other companies prior to starting your own. So this isn't like I'm just out of college and 22 years old starting my business. This is a little bit past that.
Correct.
Tell me this, though, when you started this one, and I ask this a lot for people that are coming on, did you start with a full-on written-out business plan, or more with a business idea that you tweaked as you went, or by the seat of your pants, or somewhere in the middle?
Oh gosh, definitely towards the latter. It was more like just build as we go. We kind of, as I started to work for my first client and seeing what I was able to do for them and helping them grow, implementing their social media strategy, implementing a full-on marketing plan for them, working through their digital advertising campaigns, it became apparent that other businesses could utilize the same skill set that I bring to the table or that our company does. And so then it was like, okay, I have one, they're going to introduce me to a second one, perfect, let's bring them in. And so then as we started to grow the business, then it was like, okay, maybe we do need to have a more longer-term business plan or a longer-term plan in general, but it definitely didn't start that way.
Yeah, my first business didn't start that way at all either. It kind of grew around me, and I was trying to build around it. My coaching business absolutely started. I was in 2013. I was 13 years in at that point, so I knew enough to know exactly what to lay out and how to do it and how to do the things. But I certainly didn't know the first time. And my first business, interiors and custom window treatments, it did like yours did. I kind of served one client, and then the next client came, and it just became almost super organic.
Yeah.
And then I started realizing, oh my gosh, I better put some kind of rules around all this.
Yes, exactly.
Or it's going to get away from me. And that's when I started doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear that.
For sure. And we found that good people know good people. So like as soon as we found a really great client that we have a great relationship, partnership with, they're going to start talking about our services to their people, and then they bring those other people in. And we do our best to talk about our clients as much as they're talking about us, just to share the wealth. But yeah, good people know good people. And so that organic growth has been super helpful.
I found the same thing. I used to always just pray that God would keep the bad clients away from me. But, when you have that ideal client, and like you said, you choose good people to work with and you're good to them and the relationship stays healthy and whole, they're willing to give your name out. And chances are they only want to be associated with people who have similar characteristics to them. That's why you don't want to work with somebody who's nasty and negative, because all their friends are probably nasty and negative, because if not, they're not going to be around them. I always said right? It's just good brings goods. All right, today we're going to jump in and talk a little bit about testimonials. You and I had a private conversation a couple of weeks ago, and we were just talking about the need for testimonials, and I was like, I'd really like to bring you on and talk about this. Before we even jump in, what is a testimonial? Like, if you had to give a definition for it, how would you define it?
I would just say it's your consumer or your client's thoughts, opinions, and their experience with your business, service, brand, product, whatever you're putting out to the world.
Okay. What are some of the benefits of having a testimonial? So I'll say the straight definition of a testimonial. They can be good, they can be bad, and they can be neutral, right?
Yep.
They can be anywhere on there. So there's not this inherent idea that a testimonial is good. It can be bad.
Yes, for sure.
Our goal is to get good testimonials. And what are some of the benefits of getting these good testimonials? Like, why do we even care?
So I would say the goal overall would be to get opinions from your customers, whether that's positive, negative, or neutral. Definitely 100% we want more positive reviews and testimonials than negative. But in general, we just want to know what our people think about what we're doing. And so I think the benefits of asking for those and receiving them is going to be helping your business build trust and credibility. So that's going to be showing other people what they're saying about you. And it's been shown that a very high percentage of consumers, I think it's like 70%, actually look at those reviews before making a purchase. But then the even crazier statistic is that 79%-ish of consumers trust other people's thoughts or, those testimonials more than they would like their family or friends. Having that kind of mark of approval can really help you sell whatever you're trying to sell.
And so it goes back to your comment about good people bring good people. It's really that same kind of word of mouth. We hear about that all the time. And I'll say this, a little more in the vein of receiving testimonials in some type of hopefully a written format that we can either use internally to improve our processes and procedures and systems or communication, or that we can use for social media proof. In that case, there's still this idea of word of mouth, which is testimonial, telling somebody. And I know even in my own business, if one of my clients tells a colleague about what I do for them and how I do it for them, it's a transfer of trust, like you said.
Yes.
So you're transferring the trust they have on me for their friend. And so that when they call me, it's like a super warm call because they believe the opinions of their friends and trust that the same thing can happen for them.
Yep, for sure. I mean, if I'm talking to a potential client and I'm telling about all the amazing things that we can do for them, they see that as me selling. That's sales. But if a different client comes to them and tells them about the amazing things we can do for them, they're going to see that as a trustworthy mark of approval or testimonial review. And they're going to believe that way more than whatever I have to say about my business. So definitely those things build trust, they build credibility, but they also can help you increase sales, and they have a positive effect on your site, your website's SEO. I know that kind of gets a bit technical, but just having these paragraphs or sentences or positive words on your website can help your rankings on Google. And when someone like searches on their map, if they're looking for a business like yours, a business is going to pop up ahead of others when it has more positive reviews underneath it. Lots of benefits for reviews. I'd say probably the last one is just it can help you improve your business. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, loads of good information can come from reviews. Even the negatives. We can learn so much from the negative reviews, just like we can learn from the positive ones.
That's another reason that I am a huge supporter of when we are wrapping up a project with one of our clients, that we ask them, share your experiences, what worked well, what didn't work well, what would you like to change? I mean, if you think about it at the basic level, that is their testimony of how they perceived the transaction. right?
Yeah.
Not testimonial in the way that maybe we're thinking shows up on Google, but it is that internal acceptance of information that allows us to look at it, hopefully remove ourselves a little bit from the emotion of it and go, all right, am I starting to see things creep up more than once? Can I answer why the communication broke down? Can I acknowledge where the process needs to be adjusted here? Or, oh my gosh, we really got that right. Let's do that again. Or we did something really special for this client and they loved it and recognized it as a huge value add. Now let's add it into the next and make it part of our ongoing process. And so I think there's also, and Maddie, you tell me, I can see I know that it's true, but there can sometimes be that fear of asking for information. And because we always, I would say, I don't like it, but I think by and large, we tend to go towards some of the negative sometimes in our thought process instead of towards the positive. But it's nice to internally ask for information. And I don't know about you, but I found that if, let's say that something's not going 100% and you're asking for feedback so that you can correct it, most of those people, if they later give you an online review, they're not going to be as harsh because you tried to address it early on and tried to change it. But those that you don't ask could easily think, I'm going to go online and ruin you.
Yes, for sure. Like you mentioned, there's definitely a fear for asking for information. I think especially like in the industry you work in, interior design, they're offering a very personal service. They're giving their recommendations on what they feel is going to be best for their clients. And that's a very personal interaction. And so for them to then ask for feedback, whatever they say, it's going to hit them more personally than probably if your client was just selling products online. And so I think that fear is legitimate. I've definitely felt it for sure. But I think in that situation, it's important to kind of take off that personal hat and the business hat. I run a business. This is my business. And for the business, I really need to know what I'm doing right and doing wrong. And then like you also mentioned, when you do something wrong, people just want their opinions to be heard. They just want to know that you care about them. And yeah, maybe I didn't like what you did, but now that you know it, you're taking action. And that's all I want. I just want to be heard. And so when you give them a chance to voice their opinions ahead of time, it very much diminishes their need to go online and write bad things about your business. So I think that in and of itself is a reason why people should be proactive in asking for reviews.
Right. And again, every review that we're asking for doesn't have to be online. They can be privately held reviews. It's just saying, share with me your opinions of our process and working together. I will say this, it's interesting. I've seen some of my clients, I really encourage them to do this. And you can tell the ones at first, they're a little bit skittish, but 9 times out of 10, the information they get back is so good. I have them start with clients that you love, that you know love you.
Yes.
And then we can work your way down to maybe some of the other clients. But start with those that you love, because you don't want your very first review to be like a smack upside the head. That's not going to make you feel good. So you got to have some good ones. Then what I have them do is go back and look at those reviews side by side, and you can start to see the nuggets of your brilliance show up. Like you can start to see, as some might say, your secret sauce or your superpower or whatever it is that makes you special, your unique sales proposition. You can start to see elements of it show up in those reviews if you're doing it well. They will say back to you what they recognized as great from working with your firm, working with your company. And that is huge. That is gold. That becomes your marketing message back out again. You pull that information. I mean, yes, you can use their quote, fine, but I'm just saying you can use the essence of what they're saying. Part of the whole thing of marketing is, are people picking up what you're putting down? And so when they are verbalizing and articulating back to you what they've picked up from working with you, and it's exactly what you want to put down, you use their words and give it back to them. And that's what pulls in more like people, right?
Yep. Yeah. Utilizing their words about you in every sense of your business, throwing it on the wall, putting it in your social media posts, writing blog posts, putting it on your website, making sure they share it on all of the platforms or all the listings that are important to your business. Like you want to utilize those positive words as much as possible.
So let's talk for just a minute. What is the best way to go about asking for reviews?
So I would say we have to be careful when and how we ask for reviews when we're talking about reviews that are going to live online.
How do we start gathering some of that initial feedback so that I'm going to put it under the big umbrella of testimonial, but let's talk about internal feedback. How do we get that from a client, and when's the best time to ask for that during the project?
I would say you have to look at your entire sales process. And my recommendation to all my clients is building it into the process where it makes sense. So whether that is in advance, letting them know that at the end of the project, we're going to ask and we're going to really want your feedback, that sometimes that works best. Sometimes it's in the middle during a project when you have a feeling that it's going really well, or maybe when it's not going well. Maybe that's when you jump in and ask for feedback. But I think it really depends on the sales process itself. But I would say
you can even do it at the end of a phase. Like you could build it into at the end of each phase, we're going to stop and make sure we get clarity and back on the same page and get some feedback, and then we'll move on again, right?
Yep. And I would say asking more than once is going to be important, because essentially you're asking someone to take time out of their busy day and write something about you. And that's not always easy, especially when the project's super large, or maybe when the project's really small. But just writing nice things about people, sometimes it doesn't come easily for others. So I would say it's a big ask. You don't want to take it lightly, but definitely asking them more than once. Because if someone just randomly asks you to leave a review, you're probably not going to do it. But if you ask them multiple times, it's going to stick in your brain and be like, oh yeah, I really did love her service. I want, help her business grow. I think making it a personal ask always helps as well. So instead of writing an email that you blast out at certain times of your sales process, if that's going to work for you, fine. But if you can make it more personable, that's going to help you get more responses. And then I think too, showing them or telling them how important it is, really proving why their feedback helps your business, also gives them an extra reason to actually do it.
And interesting for me, when I've had people give me feedback, which I encourage, and again, it's hard. I don't even know a person who thinks, please tell me everything I'm doing wrong. But at the same time, we want to know what we're doing wrong. It's like this catch-22, right? But I've also found what builds huge trust is if somebody tells you, hey, I'm not really happy with this part of the process, or I felt left out here, or I didn't feel this, going back and acknowledging and saying, I heard you, and this is where I've changed my process, or changed my wording, or this is where I have implemented some type of a fix to try to keep that from happening again. I mean, that just zooms that trust level straight up.
For sure. I think when we talk about feedback and reviews or testimonials, I think that point is extremely important. So let's say you do ask people to leave you an online review and they include something negative, or they include something that's not super positive. In general, it's best practice to respond to every review, no matter where it falls in positivity rankings, but especially if it's negative or neutral. You want to jump in there as soon as possible. And like you said, recognize their feelings, apologize for making them feel that way, and then providing some type of resolution. Maybe that's just telling them you're going to reach out personally and fix it. Maybe it's including the way you're going to do that within the response. But yes, definitely listening and responding and fixing is going to be the best response to any type of negative feedback or review online.
I don't even know who to give credit to for the quote. I'll have to look it up, but it says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I think that's a good thing to keep in mind here. Even though we may not agree with whatever they have to say when people give us information back, feedback, reviews. I mean, we all are looking at what is happening to us through the lens of our own experience and biases and everything else. While I may not see the situation the same way they see the situation, trying to understand how they see it, or if they interpret it one way, how it could lead them to where they are, trying to follow the crumb trail to how they got to where they are. Yes. And again, it doesn't mean that one is right and one is wrong. They're different. Mm-hmm. And so trying to, at least, like you said, understand and respond. Let's be honest, there may not always be a resolution. The resolution may be we have to agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. But we have to do something, because I'll tell you, like, even when I go out to get a book on Amazon, I'm looking at the reviews. Even when they send me a free book, before I'm even going to take the time to download your free book on my Kindle app and spend any time looking at it, I'm going to see what other people have said about your book. They say that it has certain themes in it that I don't want to know about. I don't care that the book is free. I'm not taking it. If it says that it has certain language that I don't want to be pouring into my brain, I'm not going to do it. If it says that the book's given away in the first chapter. Like, I'm not going to it's not just because it's free that I'm going to take it. I'm reading those reviews.
Right.
And when I go out to buy clothes from somebody like a new maker, I'm looking at the reviews. Does it fit small? Does it run large? Does it run wide? Size up, size down, or this came and it was beautifully done. We are reading these reviews all day long for just commodities. Why would we not then do it for more boutique specialized items? We're going to look at them and we're going to listen to them and pay attention.
Especially when that service you're providing has a higher price tag. And especially like interior designers, when they come into your home, it's very personal. I want to know before I hire you that what you're going to do for me, like I'm going to be happy with it.
Because a lot of it's on spec. I mean, a lot of it is, I am trusting the creativity coming out of your brain.
Right.
Well, it rarely is it coming in with a commodity. It's not coming in with, here's a table that I'm going to sell you. It's coming in with, I am going to dream up, think up a scheme and trust me to dream on your behalf. Think about that.
Yeah. Before you sign anything or hire anyone, you are reading those reviews to make sure that the person you're hiring is going to be right for that job. And not only are you reading the reviews, but you're reading the responses that the business has to them as well. And so that's why it's so important to respond to all of them. And let's say someone does leave you something negative, your response to that person's thoughts and comments also reflects on the business and the type of person you are. So it's really important to make sure you're keeping that in mind when you're responding, because it is, again, it's very personal, especially if you're the business owner, if you're the one who's responding to those reviews. Maybe you even worked closely with that client and now they're saying something negative online. It's very easy to jump in and be like, that's not true. Or like, that didn't happen this way. Like, you got to step back. You got to make sure that whatever you write is going to change the mind of the person who's reading it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I do. Sometimes what I've found is if I have to respond to something that I just, I'm like, my teeth are set and I'm angry and I'm like, you have lost your mind. There is a part of me in my humanness that wants to write back, you're a big idiot and you've lost your mind. But we all know that does not go well on the other side.
No, because if I'm going to hire you, oh crap, if I don't like it, I don't want to get berated by, I don't want to I'm an idiot. You know what I mean?
Right. And, honestly, we all may still think that. We're just not going to tell you. That's the difference. I'm being facetious here, but I think I did a podcast with Claire, and in it, we were talking about communication. And I said to her, one of the things that I always try to think, look, I'm not 100% perfect on this at all. But what I do is I try to think, what do I want the final outcome to be? Now, what can I say to get us there? So in the review, if they say something that I don't like, or that I think is a misrepresentation of fact, instead of going back and nitpicking on every one of their comments, in my opinion, you have to address it enough to make them feel heard, but not open it up for further arguments. That's a delicate balance. And so as much as I would say we need to respond quickly, we better respond thoughtfully and quickly. That's difficult in the moment. So sometimes I do this little thing with myself where I think, this is not about me. I'm trying to answer this for my client. So if I'm answering it for my client, then I can take the emotion out. But if I'm trying to answer it for my own business, the emotion is pushing towards the forefront. Sometimes I even stop and look at my why and my business values and think, how can I answer and keep those at the forefront? Answer with my values. This is not easy, Maddie, because you got to answer in a way that's not dismissive.
I know.
Not argumentative, that's not passive aggressive or sarcastic, but that also doesn't make you the mat, keep being walked on and kicked on and stepped. I'm not going to lie, it's a delicate balance. It could even behoove some of us to craft some of these statements in advance, like some thoughts of, if somebody says that my service sucks, I'm going to say this. If they say that we didn't follow up on our promise, I'm going to potentially try to say this. And it doesn't mean that's what you have to say, but it gives you that nugget to start thinking off of when it happens, starting from a blank slate where emotion takes. You're like, okay, I got this. I'm going to go to my Word document or my Google document that has all of these responses that align with my why and my values. How can I pull and craft it together to answer them?
For sure. I think just thinking through some of the situations that my clients have been in the past, when we've seen things like that happen, one of the responses that we've seen work really well has been to reach out personally to that person. Because like we talked about earlier, they're just trying to be heard. They're just trying to get their story or whatever happened to them out there. And essentially they want a response. They want you to take action. We found that if possible, reaching out to them, getting them on the phone, listening to the issue, understanding what happened to them, and then providing maybe your side or just maybe letting them know you're so sorry and trying to make it right, that takes care of the issue. And we found that those people are way more likely to go back and change their review. We've seen a lot of times that someone will go in and say like, yeah, this is what happened. I received a personal call from the owner. We talked through the issue, and now I would definitely recommend this business. Kind of took it from a very negative situation, and now you're showcasing your customer service and your ability to resolve conflict, and you've probably gained a very loyal client out of it.
Sometimes less is more in that, to your point. You know, again, I know I said have a document of things that you could say, and I do think that's necessary.
Yeah.
But we do want to say the minimum amount that we can say to solve the problem, even if it is, I'm so sorry to hear this, I'll contact you personally to see if we can get to resolution. Yeah. That can be enough. But let me say this, what about bots? Sometimes maybe it's not a bot, but you know, they're just nefarious, mean people out there that have never done business with other businesses that are going out to leave nasty reviews just because like they're bored and have no life. And so how do you respond to those? We've never worked together.
I think if your business is small enough where you are 100% sure that you've never worked together, then I would say you try and remove that from whatever listing you're working on, because there's ways to flag reviews as inappropriate or misleading or incorrect. So I would definitely take that action, but also in the review or in the reply mentioning, we're very sorry that you felt this way, but we're checking our records and we just don't have any record of you doing business with us. Again, we're very sorry. Kind of taking that approach, but I would say definitely try and get it removed if possible.
Okay. So let's go back and talk for a minute. Is there anything else that we can do with negative reviews?
I would say just making sure you're responding to all of them. That's going to be the biggest one. I think you can kind of look at it from a different perspective too. Like if you're going out and trying to find a business to work with and all you're seeing is glowing ratings, 5-star reviews, something in your brain's switch is gonna turn on and say like, do I really trust this business? Like really nothing has ever gone wrong for this business. Or maybe all of these reviews are their friends. You know what I mean? So having 0 negative feedback or having 0 neutral feedback can sometimes be a red flag as well. And so knowing that your business has a few, it kind of helps build credibility, build trust for your clients as well.
I don't know. I think everybody can look at that differently based on what I think it's according to what the business is. Like if it's an accountant and I got horrible books and that's one compared to I got great books, that would give me pause.
And let's say a business has 500 reviews and they're all 5-star reviews. That's going to lead me to believe something's maybe a little fishy.
Right.
If I have 460 5-star reviews out of 500, okay, there we go. But right. If you're a smaller business and you have 5 reviews and 3 of them are negative, yeah, that's going to be a red flag.
That's going to be a problem. Yeah. So it is a numbers game to some degree as well. I mean, when I'm looking at reviews, I don't mind if 1 or 2 people, like I ordered some frames while we've been out with business disruption, COVID and all that. I ordered some frames to frame some pictures and it came up to like a 4-star rating or 4.5. And I looked at it and I read through all of it and I thought, I'm willing to try that. Right? It didn't have to be perfect for me to engage.
Yeah.
There are other things that I needed more close to a 5 to engage. And so I think that to your point, it didn't stop me and it made me realize we all have different opinions and how we see things, and that's okay. It didn't have any 1s and 2s. That would have absolutely given me pause. It was mostly 4s and 5s, which just comes down to value, quality, that kind of thing.
For sure.
For the item that I was looking to get. So let's move now and talk about not just feedback, but testimonials for social proof. Tell me, what is the best way to collect those? You've said make it personal, but how? And I don't have a huge amount of reviews out there because I'm not as great at asking. I've got a huge amount of emails in my inbox telling me how great it is to work with me. And, you know, I just kept going. I don't always think about, I need to go get it. And we'll talk about in a few minutes where we should have all these reviews.
Yeah, you don't think about where you share.
But I didn't always think about it that way. I was just taking the information that was coming. I was too busy working to stop and solicit or ask somebody. Like you said, it's a big ask to say, would you mind sharing what you think? I've certainly done that. But it's also, I found if I can even ask them and then give them the link or tell them how to do it, because it's different on every different platform. There's a different way that you go about doing it. Some you got to be signed in, you got to be registered, you just got to fill it out. I mean, I asked for podcast reviews. What I do again, okay, I'll ask right now, anybody listening, please jump out and review the podcast. We need that, but is there a good way to ask? Is there a templated system? And I don't mean templated from dropping it in your CRM and having it send it out, but I mean, is there a good methodology for doing this?
I would say the more personal you can make it, the better, and include the link. I think it's as simple as that. Is that would work for your business? If you're working with thousands of clients, then writing 1,000 personal emails a day, that's just not possible. But if you can make it work for your business, that would be my recommendation. And including those links and figuring out where you want the reviews to show up. So I know we're going to talk about that later, but really nailing down maybe 3. You don't want to overwhelm them. You certainly don't need to ask them to leave a review on all the channels, but giving them options so that they pick the one that's most convenient for them is going to help increase the likelihood of them leaving it. Because like me, I'm not a huge Yelp user. And so for someone to ask me to leave a Yelp review, that's going to be more time than if someone asked me to leave a Google review, because I'm already logged in on all my devices. So clicking that button is just going to pop up the review box and I can type something away within seconds. So giving them those options so that they can choose what's most convenient is going to increase the response rate.
Oh, okay. So now here's something I've never done. I've always asked people to give me a review in one platform. So I've never said to them, hey, I'm looking to see if you'd be willing to share your feedback or your testimony, whatever. Here are 3 different links. Choose the one that works for you. Or you could type it in one and copy and paste it to the other 2. I'll say, could you please give me a Google review? Here's the link. Could you please leave me a review on Facebook? Here's the link. Could you please give me a LinkedIn? Here's the link. I've always done and just asked for one place. Is it better to just ask for one or give them 2 or 3 and say, choose the one that's best for you? Or
I would say the latter. I would say I'd make the ask very personal, tell them why this is going to be helpful for your business, and then give them the option of 3 different ones. If they're a very loyal client and they love what you do, the chances of them leaving a review on all 3 are going to be much higher than if it's a brand new client. But giving them that option increases the chances of them responding.
Is it bad form to say if you type it in one, you can cut and paste it into the other 2?
No, I wouldn't say
share that with it. Because if somebody told me, I'd be like, well, that makes sense. I can go into 3 places and cut and paste.
I have not seen that that's been detrimental to anyone's listings, having the same review on all places. I think it's easier for the client and it gets the good word out on multiple platforms.
And I've asked before and some didn't do it. And then I even later get that, you know what, I was supposed to do that for you. I forgot. I'll try to get it done. I think when you and I were talking, I made mention that I had gone out and was looking at my LinkedIn profile and realized I'd been out there for years. I had 0 referrals and 0 testimonials. I had just never asked anybody for one. I'd never paid that much attention to it. Sure. And I had some reviews on Facebook. I had reviews on Google. I had reviews in other places, but I had on my podcast, but I had 0 there. And so I reached out to a few of my clients. I'm like, would you please, because I knew they were on LinkedIn. When you go out to LinkedIn, here's the link. Would you please leave a review? And they certainly were like, oh, absolutely. And certainly started leaving those reviews. But where else can we use them? So once somebody writes a review for us, let's jump ahead and talk about where to put the reviews. And then let's talk about how we can use them. Where are some places that we should consider? We can't do all of them if we don't have any and we're starting from scratch. Right. But give me a list of some places that we could do it. And then let's talk about how we might choose where to start.
Okay, so just a basic list would be Google, Facebook, Yelp. For interior designers, I know Houzz, 2 Z's.
Yep, Houzz.
That's a big one. LinkedIn, Angie's List, Bing. I mean, there are lists a mile long of where you can ask people to leave reviews. But going into your next point, how do you nail it down? How do you determine where you really want them to show up? I would say you need to do some research on your business and figure out where people are finding you and where people are researching your services, because it's going to be very different. For example, if you're in the restaurant industry, you better be on Yelp, because that's right now where people are going to find restaurants, trying to figure out where they want to eat. So it's really dependent on where your clients are researching your services.
And that's a good point, because we've always talked about from a social media perspective, you don't have to be everywhere. You need to show up where your clients are. This is a little bit more of a twist. We're not just showing up where our clients are. We're showing up in the platform that they might use to search for us before they actually find us. So for example, I never use Bing. I don't. But it doesn't mean that my clients or my potential clients don't use Bing. I'm a Google searcher, but others may have Bing as their main search provider. I just don't. I would have never thought to go to Bing.
A lot can be gleaned from your website. So if you have analytics installed in your website, you can figure out where people are coming from. So that'll give you a really good indication of where you should be providing those reviews for those people, but also just talking to those clients. So again, building that ask into the sales cycle at the beginning when you're talking to a potential client. How did you learn about us? Where did you find it? What sites were you using? Kind of jotting down that information and maybe making a list. That'll tell you too where you need to be putting those reviews.
Right. And I know exactly where the traffic is coming to my site from. I know where it's coming from. And that's why I've started going in and making sure that those were the first channels that I had reviews on. But that's a good point. For anybody listening, if you have Google Analytics or some type of an analytics on your website, go see where traffic's coming from and start there with trying to get your reviews built up before you start branching out into other places.
And I would say Google is going to be important. So whatever list you build, Google should probably be on that. A very, very high percentage of the searches on the internet are through Google. So you could probably bet that that's where the majority of your traffic's coming from and where the majority of the research is being done to learn about your product or service.
Okay, so for those like us, anybody within that interior design, so stagers, drapery workrooms, all of us under that umbrella, how many testimonials? Let's say we're starting off with none. We can't go build up 50 testimonials under each one quickly. So let's say we tried to start sprinkling and getting some on our, just say 3 main platforms. Let's just say Google, Facebook, and maybe LinkedIn. We're going to start on those 3. That's the ones we're going to hit heavy. Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn. How many do we need in each of those locations? Number 1, as we're getting started. And number 2, what is the ideal amount of referrals under there? In general, none of us are working with hundreds of clients. We may be working with, some of us, 5 clients or 10 clients for the entire year. Others may be working with more if it's more of a decorating and you're quick and you're in and you're out. There certainly may be more than that. But by and large, the majority of us are not working with hundreds or thousands of people in a year. So it's not going to be, again, commodity based where we can have 500 reviews. What's a good number to say start? And then what's an ideal?
Well, I hate to do this, but I would say I don't have a good number to start. I would say you have to look at your book of business and determine from there. So let's say you do have 5 clients. So maybe putting a goal of getting 3 out of your 5 clients to leave a review, maybe that would suffice. I think taking a look at your competition might give you a good idea as well. Because if you're working in an area that has maybe 5 or 6 of the same business type and they all have 10 plus reviews, then you probably need to work to get to that amount or more to start making a difference. But I think, again, if you're only working with 5 clients a year and your competitors have 100 plus reviews, then comparing yourself and trying to get to that number it's not intelligent.
Well, they could have been in business for 20 years to get that, and you've been in business for 2. The point here is to keep asking, to look at what's happening in your area for light businesses and to do your best to start to build it up. But the truth of the matter is we just need to have at least some in all of the areas that really matter to us.
You need to make it a priority within your business, to be asking for reviews, to be sharing them, and to be utilizing them in your marketing.
Now let's go back to the communication a minute, because I've seen this. I would love to get your opinion on it. Some who, when they give the ask with the specific, like, we would love to hear about your experience with our company on this part, or we would like for you to talk about how this resonated with you. So they're really guiding them in the testimonial, not just a broad, hey, would you please go out and write a testimonial, and leaving it so open-ended. They're kind of narrowing it down and asking for specifics, almost like they're reading their testimonials and going, oh, nobody's talking about how great we are here. I'm going to ask somebody to talk about how great we are here. Is that appropriate, inappropriate, or is there a good way to do that?
No, I think it's a great, if a business took that information, saw the reviews that they're not mentioning these amazing things, and are able to make that request in a professional manner, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's a great idea to highlight the areas of your business that you think should be highlighted. I think just as you continue to ask for reviews and as you kind of get more comfortable with it and you're putting together, your script or how you go about it, kind of looking at what's working. So if you're always asking for a generic review, just, hey, leave me your feedback, and no one's responding, then maybe tweaking the ask and saying something a little bit more specific might actually turn into a review. So kind of looking at your process and maybe tweaking it in that way might help. I don't see anything wrong with it.
So I'm all about building our businesses with intentionality, right? So strategy and intention. I think it would be an awesome exercise for us to stop and think, this is my unique sales proposition. This is our core competency. These are our values. This is what we want to be known for. And then looking through, if you already have reviews, are they hitting those things? And then identifying what you're missing. But I want to know, again, are they picking up what I'm putting down? And so asking for some general reviews, if they've hit everything, you don't have to worry about it. But if not, it's definitely something to consider. It's not that I want to script words for anybody, but we all kind of know what we hope that those we work with are saying about us.
Yeah, I think you definitely don't want to push them in any direction. You want your reviews to be very natural and to be very honest so that people trust what they're saying. Because if they get an inkling that you've kind of swayed them in one direction, it defeats the purpose of even having them online.
Sure.
But I think giving them a specific ask or being specific about what you're looking for, them giving you their organic or their honest feedback about that specific thing is a great idea.
Now, is it best for most of these for them to go in and physically put the testimonial? What if they just email it to you? What do we do with those?
Well, okay, so there, again, going back to the two different things. So you have feedback and then you have like testimonials or online reviews. So if someone's just emailing you their feedback, like we talked about, that's still going to be full of great information. And you can pull that and put it on your website. You can use it in your marketing material, on your social media channels, but you're not going to be able to take that and put it onto those listings that we mentioned earlier. And so, yes, still great, still utilize that feedback. But
you could email them back and say, hey, Maddie, thank you so much for sending this. This is so beautifully written. Would you mind adding it to this link or this link so that it could go out as a review? That would be much appreciated. And just read in there, hey, you can cut and paste this just so you don't have to rewrite it. I'm just not allowed to put a review out for you. And if you would be so kind as to blah, blah, blah.
So yeah, we definitely want these amazing feedback online. So however you can get that person to leave it there.
Okay. But if they don't, we can't add it out there for them, but we can still use that information. I usually even write back and say, hey, is it okay if I use what you said in my marketing or whatever? I don't just use it without asking them. I usually go back and go, is it okay if I use what you've said and attribute it to you and blah, blah, blah? Because some people want it to be very private and they don't either want people to know they're working with you or they don't want people to know that they struggled based on what it is they're saying. So I always ask before I just start using it, even if it was emailed to me.
Yep, that's smart. I think that covers your bases if you do that.
Okay. So how do we make the most of our testimonies? So we've talked about why we need them. We've talked about what they are. We've talked about how to do the ask in multiple formats. We've even talked about how to determine maybe what we want to highlight, product, service, or value, or any of that. We've talked about how to collect them. We've talked about where to put them. How else can we make the most of them?
So I love to repurpose them and use them as social media posts. So if it's a great long review, then you put it on a channel that's more in line with longer form content. But utilizing that on your social media channels is a great way to share it. I think you could always, just kind of different, but definitely including that information maybe in your emails, putting it at the bottom, make sure it's on the website, maybe have a different page on the website that just focuses on your reviews and testimonials that you've received. You could create a blog post around someone's thoughts and feelings. You could reach out to that person and say, hey, I love what you wrote. Could we do a face-to-face and maybe get you on camera speaking about my business? I mean, there are so many ways you can utilize that content to market your own business. I think it's just up to the person and how creative they want to get with it.
Sometimes it feels really weird, though, to take all the great things somebody said about you and go, oh, why don't I go tell the rest of the world how great Maddie thinks I am? I mean, there's something that kind of feels weird about that. How do we get past that so that we can put it out and not look like we're being braggy, but like we're sharing? I mean, because I've read some that I'm like, I wish you'd quit bragging. I mean, it just feels gross. I'm just serious. And others I look at and I think, wow, that was so nicely done. And I don't even know how to differentiate the two with words, but I know when I read one that feels like they are constantly patting themselves on the back, like every one of their IG stories is telling you how great they are. And it feels like, oh my gosh, I really felt overwhelmed to have gotten it. And I'm not saying that you're mustering up extra emotion, but I'm saying, I don't know. You know how you made the comment earlier, some things feel salesy when I tell you about it, but when somebody else tells you about it, how do we not do that?
I think it's just being very professional about it.
So define professional, Maddie? Come on, girl.
Let's say for when I'm working with my clients and I'm sharing their testimonials, I'm sprinkling it in. I'm not going overboard. I want to share this information, but again, like you said, I don't want to be bragging about this information. So for me, it's twice a month. In our Instagram posts or stories, it's twice a month. If we're going to put it on the website, then I love throwing all of those on the website.
That feels totally natural to me, because if I'm looking at your website, then I am going there to get the information. I'm talking about more in the social media where it's just.
I keep it to 2 to 3 a month. I don't want to overdo it. That's my personal feelings. When we communicate marketing our social media plans with our clients, we kind of talk about that. And that's what we've kind of settled on.
I've actually heard from others, max is 1 a month. I mean, 1 a week. 1 a week. So 4 a month.
There you go.
1 a week is max. After that, it just becomes, okay, a little too much.
Yeah. And I think too, how you're talking about it has a big impact on how people perceive it. If you're trying to be bragging about it, people are going to pick up on that. And that's you as a consumer, you're turned off by that. So really knowing your customers, if you're running your social media channels yourself, you're going to know what people are looking for, what they love about your page, how they're engaging with your page. And you're going to know early on what you should be saying, how you can kind of share that information in a way that's not going to turn off these clients or potential customers.
Because 9 times out of the 10, when people are sharing that on social media, you're cheering for them. I mean, most of us are cheering for them. Good for you. I'm so glad you got that. Wow, nicely done. But then there's always that one that comes across where you're like, oh, I can't even. And you just.
Right, exactly. So there's a fine line there. 2 to 3 a month, that's what we do. The last thing you want your reviews to do is turn people off. It's supposed to turn people off.
Even if they're good reviews, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, that just brings up a good point of what to think about. I think that we would put that under the what not to do, is make it so constant and so salesy and so braggy. And I think we each kind of have to figure out what that line is for us.
Yeah.
And then work through that. Is there anything else as we're wrapping up that we should not do? And then we'll recap at the end maybe what we should do. Anything else that we need to just be wary of, cautious of?
The only other thing I can think of is incentivizing your review process. It's seen as a no-no to give something for a review. There's lots of ways that people still do it. Or leave us a review and we'll enter you into a contest or enter you into a giveaway. Leave us a review and we'll give you $50. But typically that's considered not something you should be doing. When you're looking at the specific listings that you're pushing these people to leave reviews on, they all have their different set of rules and regulations when it comes to testimonials. They can remove them. They can turn off your listing. You can have repercussions for doing these type of things. I would say Yelp is probably the most stringent. They tell you not to ask for reviews at all. And so if they see tons of people coming in maybe on one day or throughout 1 week and leaving a review, there's a high likelihood that those reviews could be deleted or could never show up. And because, the algorithm has determined that maybe you asked for this review. So every listing has its own kind of set of rules, but one that's in common is not to incentivize that process.
Okay. Anything else we need to think about? One of the big ones you said, don't ignore a review that's less than stellar. Respond to all of them.
Yeah, I would say don't ignore any review, no matter how good or no matter how bad. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to realize that this person took their time and wrote you something, and they did it for a reason. Maybe they did it to help you grow your business. Maybe they did it so you could see how amazing you were doing, or maybe they did it to get your attention because something was wrong. You need to take the time out of your day to reply.
Okay. So as we kind of wrap up and we start saying, here are some things we should do. Here's the big nuggets I picked up from what you shared. If we're thinking about starting, the first thing I would do is probably look to see, where do I already have reviews? Then you can start to look at, if we're talking about just the mechanics of it, look at your analytics of your website, see where traffic's coming from, kind of figure out about how many reviews you need in those places. Maybe identify some areas that you want to have reviewed, and then reach out to some of your clients and ask them for reviews in those areas that you've identified where you need them. Make it an individual ask, you said. Put the links so that it makes it easier. Maybe give them choices, and then make sure that you go back and, we didn't say this, but I know that the heart of your business, go back and thank them for a review. If somebody's taking the time to do it, make sure we need to go back and thank them for taking the time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you think we need to think about or do as we consider testimonials for our business?
I would say through that first process that you just described is perfect. So then jumping off from there and making it a norm for your business is going to be the most important. You've done the research, you've analyzed everything that's currently out there. You've made the initial requests. Now build it into your business so that it's automatic, it's always being done, and you don't really have to worry about it moving forward.
So that's a good point. Then we need to figure out, where does it fit best into our process, as you explained at the beginning.
Yeah.
And maybe what are the milestones, or what are the things that are happening that would trigger it, so that we can keep it fresh and keep it going, and that every review is not 10 years old and we're not getting fresh new updates all the time.
Yeah, for the clients that we work with, we are providing monthly reporting, and that reporting encompasses everything that they're doing online. And one of those facets is the reviews. So we're monitoring on a monthly basis how many reviews are coming in and where they're coming from. And so then we can report on that, and we can say like, oh, great, last month we had 5 new reviews come through on Google. Awesome. Now we have 90 reviews on Google, 2 on Facebook, and 1 on LinkedIn. So we could really see where we need to be focusing our efforts moving forward. So I know that that's extra time and extra effort on a monthly basis, but maybe doing some type of review like that, or some type of report like that, would help you focus the efforts moving forward.
That's awesome. Maddie, thank you so much for all that you shared today. It was a fun conversation, and I'm glad we had it. And I've actually already started identifying some places to go look at my own business. And so I always love that when we have these conversations and I'm learning and gathering at the same time, and doing the podcast for my own benefit too here. So tell us where we can find you. Where are you hanging out online?
For sure. So my website's mpconsultingfirm.com. So that put up our own reviews and testimonials.
Excellent.
And then we have Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So all the typical channels.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure we have links to all of that in the show notes. And again, just thank you for sharing your expertise and coming on and talking to us all about testimonials and how to do them, what not to do, when to do it. I really love the part about building it into our process and being very intentional about it. Because sometimes I think, myself included, we just kind of assumed that if people loved what we did, they would go write it. But if they're not asked, they're busy. And it's not that they don't want to do it, they just haven't been prompted to do it.
Yeah, and it's hard to prioritize that. And thank you very much for the time too. I love talking about this, because as a business who works with small and local businesses, sometimes those marketing budgets aren't as big as they want to be. So we have to get creative on how to market the business for $0. And this is one way to do that. It's free. It doesn't cost any money to have someone write a review. And it doesn't cost any money to change that review into a social media post or put it onto the website. So I think utilizing this free source of marketing is in everybody's best interest.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. So again, thank you for all the detail. And I look forward to having everybody listen, and you're going to watch reviews pop up all over the place online.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maddie. So thankful to Maddie for joining us on the podcast today to talk all about testimonials. I know I walked away even thinking, here are a couple of places I want to go check, or some things I want to look at. I hope you did too. Each of us is trying to build a business with intention and with strategy. And that's what we focus on here at Scarlet Thread Consulting. Hop over to scarletthreadconsulting.com and fill out a form to jump on a phone with us for a discovery call. We would love to see how we can help you build a full strategy to take your business where you want it to go this year and beyond. With all things, it all happens with intention and with the plan, and our profit is no different. It doesn't happen by accident.